Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rancourt.
And I am Kim Crumbly. And together we are Counselor Accents. And Laura, my new best friend, my new BFF, who we met in Hot Vegas. How long ago has it been now? 3 weeks ago?
Maybe, yeah.
Yep. And we went to her session and she blew us away.
She did. Yeah. We gave her a standing ovation, you and I did, because, I mean, really, it was so much. We talked so much about rubber meets the road, and this was all rubber meets the road. And then the next day, you and I presented, and we were like, why are we presenting? Because we should have brought her up.
It was not near as good.
No, not at all.
It was embarrassing for her to be in there with us.
No, it wasn't. It should have just been the other way. Because like you said, you guys did the why. You know,
yes, absolutely. We did a lot of the why, and you just have so many practical. So hang on, get a pen and paper if you're old school, or jot your notes in your phone, whatever you need to do, because your Carol Miller counselor notebook. So whatever you have, because hang on, you're in for a ride. So
Tanya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell our listeners where you are and what you do, and then we'll jump in.
All right. I am a K-5 counselor in Billings, Montana. I started out as an elementary teacher. I taught in the primary grades for 3 years. And during that time, I was working on my master's degree. And after 3 years, I'd gotten that. And so I started with elementary counseling. I was in K through 2 for a couple of years. And then about 2013, came to the district I'm in now, which was K6 for a while. And then we went to a K5 model. And I've been doing that a little over 20 years. So I have a family, I have a husband and 3 kids, and they all came with me to Vegas.
Oh,
so we drove. So that was super fun with teenagers, but we all survived. So.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic. We have done those trips where we've brought the fam. And it's good in one way, but it can be it can put you at stress level midnight in another way.
Yeah, 14 hours in the car. And I took the back because we have a big truck, and the hump. I'm like, I'm taking one for the team because I'm on the hump the whole time. But they still complain.
You know, that's a book title. And I think it's for mothers, all mothers, and it's just going to be called Riding on the Hump.
Yep.
Because that's what we do. It's like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll wear your socks because I've cleaned. There's another story. I'll stop there. Lauren, I say women do anything. Women will just go with any kind of flow, and men cannot go with any kind of flow. I shouldn't say that. There'll be men on here that are going, what? We go with the flow.
I will edit you.
She will. I can promise you she will edit all of that.
Kim doesn't listen to them, so I take her completely out.
Not even in the podcast.
You should do the Verizon or whatever where they jumble it up and it comes out all different. And they're
That gives me so many ideas.
Speaking of ideas.
Yes. So let's jump in, because your session was how to increase engagement in classroom lessons. And I think that's huge for school counselors because we're not really trained on classroom management. And the more engagement you have in your lessons, the better your classroom management is. So I think that your presentation on engagement is the key to everything that school counselors need. So what was your inspiration for your session?
Mostly it was just, I wanted to create a session that I would want to go to. Mm-hmm. And I think nothing against anybody who's ever presented, but sitting and listening to somebody, we need to change this, we need to do this, but not saying the how is frustrating. Like, even if you give me some ideas that I can adapt to work for me, then I can work with that. But I I just thought I like to go to sessions that are super practical and give me lots of ideas. And I leave thinking I could do that, or I want to run back and do that right now. So that was my main inspiration. And the other one, when I first presented this, I presented to our state conference, educators conference in 2018. And I originally named it Beyond the Coloring Page, Increasing Engagement in Classroom Lessons, because I just had colleagues a long time ago say, oh, I just go in, I read this book and we talk about it. And then I found a coloring page that has a bunny on it, just like in the book, and the kids love it. And I sit there and think, really? Like, I don't know how engaging with intention, coloring can be,
Sure.
a strategy, but I just thought, can't we do better than that? And I love going in and having students excited. What are we doing today? I had one little guy in second grade this year. We playing a game. He loved games. So the day I could finally go in and say, yeah, it's a game today, he was, super excited. So I want to be able to walk into classrooms with kids excited about what we're going to do and start making those connections so that they can apply that skill or concept to their life down the line when they need some coping skills to get through whatever that moment is for them.
And that connected so well with us because you saw our session and on movement, music, and magic, because we do believe that we, especially after the pandemic, we don't think that the students, that they're not going to get off their devices, and that's part of education, and that's great and wonderful. But we do think that those experiences that we can help create with students are what makes memories. And we know by research that that's what happens. And those are the things that kids remember. So we say, why go to the trouble of preparing a lesson and there is no memory there? There's it just is white noise. And so we loved it. Some of these were just kind of, and I mean this in such a good way. And if you went to our session, I mean this in a good way. Some of them were kicking it old school. And that was basically what we were trying to get across is sometimes doing something different is it might be old school, but it's new for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like the tide has turned. What used to be, technology was novel and, let's do everything with technology. Now it's flipping, and now not being on technology and doing other things is novel. So
absolutely. Well said.
Yep. That's exactly what we say. Kim got out the felt board in her classroom, and your kids were fascinated by it, weren't they, Kim?
It was like, what are you doing right now? This is insane. You can tell a story with his felt pieces. And so it's just easier. Once you learn how to do the PowerPoints, and once you learn the Nearpods and the Flippities and the Minimeter and all the things that we love to use, and kids love them, we're going to continue to use them. It's easier. I'm just going to be honest. It's a lot easier. But these things, but I loved everything that you showed us. Is very doable, but put the effort in there. And I say it in the end, don't do anything that's a waste of your time. So do these things, and it's gonna create a better lesson for you. So talk to us about a few of these rubber meets the road practical ideas.
Well, one I shared that I love is the rice experiment. And I do that with my fourth graders, and we talk about self-esteem. I have a book that goes along with it. Trying to think of what it is now. Don't feed the monster on Tuesdays. I think it is. It's a whole week series, but don't feed the monster on Tuesdays. So they liken the negative voice inside our head to the monster. And the more you think of negative things about yourself, you're feeding that monster, and it grows and grows. But the rice goes along with that, in that I make a pot of rice, and I have two little reusable containers, just Ziploc containers, and put the rice in both of those, and just label the top of each of those, one with a positive. I label the bottom too, in case the kids try to switch the lids. One of the rules is they can't take off the lids because it does start to rot and it stinks anyway. But so one's the positive rice labeled, with a plus sign on the top and bottom, and one's the negative rice, negative, just with a Sharpie on the top and the bottom. And then I leave that in their classroom for 2 weeks with the instructions that their job is to talk to the rice. or just have, when they hold that rice, to have either a positive thought or a negative thought. Now they have to be appropriate. I say with the negative, you can't be inappropriate with your words, but just to, that's their assignment for the next 2 weeks. And I've had teachers say, let's put the positive down on my desk so I remember to be more positive. And after I come back in 2 weeks, we look at the rice. And if it works, the negative rice should rot. It gets, like black and moldy. And the positive rice stays pretty well clean and white. And we talk about why that happened. A lot of times, like, you put something in it. You did something to that. And I don't. I used to, and it never worked. It like opposite what happened. So I just don't do anything to it now. I just let nature take its course. I say, no, it's the same rice, but why would it have, 2 different outcomes? And all we really did was 2 different things, positive to this one, negative to this one. And they come up with lots of ideas, but the whole idea behind it is that rice is just rice and water carries energy. And if we know that our bodies are mostly water, thinking about how if just those thoughts and words can do that to the rice, what are those thoughts and words doing to your own body when you're saying those things about yourself that either positive or negative? So it's a nice visual, again, to make an abstract concept concrete for them. And I think that sticks with them. And they like to update me in the halls. Oh, the negative rice is getting really black. It's just super fun. And like you said, it creates a memory for them to try to draw off of and make those connections for themselves later in life. How important that is.
My mind is blown right now. Like, did you share this one in the presentation? Okay, either Kim was distracting me or we weren't in there yet because we did come in a little bit late. But my mind is blown.
And that's not my idea. I actually got that from a colleague. And not all of them were my ideas, And I put those still.
And I'm just thinking about the collaboration part of it because, we talk about the 4 C's and one of those is collaboration. And I'm thinking about how great that is to model that when you work with the science teacher and, how this happens and stuff like that. That is great.
And I pair that
idea.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to be doing that one. I love it.
There's a nice Dove commercial too. Dove has that nice self-esteem project that I usually show after I go back in and we talk about why the rice did what it did. And in that, it's a pretty short little clip, but they have a forensic artist they have somebody come in and describe themselves and they don't know what's happening. They describe what their face looks like and he sketches that. And then they had met somebody backstage or a bunch of people. They have somebody they met come in and describe their face. And then they compare the 2. And when they see their comparison of how they describe themselves to how somebody else sees them, it's kind of emotional. It's mostly women on there, but I show that again. I show that too to drive home that point that how we think about ourselves is really important. Other people don't see what we think, how we see ourselves. So that's a nice way to extend that lesson a little bit too.
Gosh, and how timely now when you look at Instagram and everybody looks perfect and their lives look perfect. And so I can see, especially when you're getting in that upper elementary, they're really being hit hard with that message of, and you can't measure up. You're never going to measure up. So I love that so much.
That is great. Thank you for giving me my first week lesson. So let's move on to week number 2.
Okay. There's really no podcast.
I'm not even
podcast. I mean, we're just two creepy people that were at the conference and now getting week 2 of the lesson.
So you're big on bibliotherapy because a lot of your lessons are tied to books. So when you think back about some of your favorite books, what are the ones that really stand out to you and have had the biggest impact?
Another one of my lessons that I talked about or activities was empathy in a shoebox. I did create that one. And I just got shoes from the thrift store and have them in shoe boxes that don't really match what the shoes are. So after I teach the students about empathy, and I use the book, Those Shoes, I don't know, by Marie Boltz, I think it's by, have you seen that one about a little boy who, he needs new shoes and he really wants, of course, the ones all the other kids are wearing. So they go to the thrift shop and he finds them, they're too small, and he realizes, another little boy in his class needs them more than him. And so he gives them to him, but just the empathy in that. So that's one of my favorite ones to go with that lesson about the empathy in a shoebox. And after I teach about empathy, I have, students come up and they pick a shoe box and it doesn't really match what's inside. So I open it up slowly and all the kids laugh because usually it's fuzzy slippers or a huge pair of football shoes. And then on the top of the box is a scenario. So after that student puts those shoes literally on their feet, I read the scenario. The person that wears these shoes just had this happen to them. Let's use our empathy skills. So head, what happened to them? Heart, how might they be feeling? How would you feel if you were in that situation? And then hands, the compassion piece. What could you do to show you care? What would you want somebody to do for you in that situation? And they just love the shoe part of it. That's one they remember for a very long time, is that one. So those shoes goes with that one. I'm trying to think of some other favorite ones. Oh, I have one. I didn't talk about this one, but I have clothesline clues to jobs people do. Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
I do this for kindergarten. I've got little Lakeshore has almost all the same characters in their career set. So I have the little figurines that go with it. And I test them at the end because some don't. I pull them out. Was this in the book? Was this in the book? But I created a worksheet of a clothesline with nothing hanging from it. So I tell my kindergartners, I want you to think about something you might want to do when you get older. Draw the clothes that you would wear hanging from the clothesline. Sometimes I have to explain clothesline because they've never seen a clothesline. And then put the tools that you use in that job on there too. And then after they do that, we gather in a circle and I let them share. But they can't tell. I say, keep it a surprise. Don't tell anybody what it is. Keep it a surprise. And so they say, well, these are the clothes I'd wear and these are the tools I would use. And then I let students guess what, because this is kind of it's oven mitts, apron, recipe for stew, puffy hat and whisk. What job does he do? So it's a guessing one. And then we turn it to see if they're right. So we kind of do the same thing with their worksheets. And it's super fun. It's funny to think of. It's funny to hear, the jobs that they come up with and what they want to do. And sometimes we have to whisper a lot in that one. Like, what are some tools that a pilot uses? So I, whisper, maybe put this on there. That's one of my favorite ones I do with students too. So that's a good book for that lesson for kindergartners.
That is so cute. I bet they respond like crazy and love it.
And then I send them home and say, do the same with your parents, show them the worksheet, but don't tell them what the job is and see if they can figure out what the job is you might want to do someday.
Oh, that is really good.
Being Wendy's another one that goes with careers. I do that with third graders, and Wendy lives in a town called Boxville, and everybody has to wear a box. And when they're little, they have to decide what they want to be when they grow up and write it on their box, and they have to grow up and become what's on their box. And Wendy she has so many ideas. There's so many things. She doesn't want to have to write anything on her box and grow up to be that. And so I go into that lesson wearing a box with some markers, and I tell the students, I'm literally in a box, and like, come up and write the one thing you want to be when you grow up on me. And some will say, well, I have two things. I say, oh, remember the instructions are you have to write the one thing you want to be when you grow up. And so usually they'll relent and write one thing. One year I had a student who refused, was like, well, if I can't write more than one, I'm not doing it. And I said, I respect that. You could sit down. But inside I was, celebrating, because that was the whole point of the book that I read after they write on me what they want to be, that you shouldn't have to decide what you want to be. There's so many jobs that aren't even created yet or that you've never learned about. And so that's a fun one to do with them too. One year I even auctioned off the box because everybody wanted the box. So I took the box home with everything on there. So that's another fun one too, is being Wendy.
Well, and our listeners can't see, but Kim and I were both cheering as you were saying that the whole point of the book is that you shouldn't have to choose because their jobs haven't even been invented yet. And anybody that's listened to us for more than 3 minutes knows that that's one of our major soapboxes that we get on, because 85%, I think, of the jobs that our students will have in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. So I love, love, love that. I'm adding that to my list.
Yeah, get that one. That's a good one.
So, go ahead. No, I do not
No.
want to stop the
No,
flow. Yes.
I'm just thinking of more books. It's funny because I use the book Being Frank too with third graders. So Being Wendy, Being Frank. And Frank is a little guy who does not have a social filter. It's very well refined. So he just kind of says whatever he wants. So that's a nice lesson to talk about. He learns from his grandpa. I think it's Grandpa Pickles or something. He learns from his grandpa how to filter things, how to say something nice to somebody, but be honest at the same time. And that's really hard for third graders, because a lot of times when it's time to practice, they'll still, have a scenario like somebody just got their haircut and you don't like it, but they say, do you like my haircut? And they're like, oh, I just say yes. And I'd say, you could, but how can you be honest but kind? Like, oh, it looks really different than it did before. Or, I like it shorter. That's still being honest but kind. That's a hard thing for them to learn. But Being Frank is a nice book that goes along well with that. And then I have a little experiment that I do with that too, with using a coffee filter and dirt and jars and pouring water over that and filtering it and seeing the difference between the jar that just has the dirt in it and the jar that got filtered, the dirt got filtered, and how it comes out clearer, and how, just again, to make that connection or make an abstract concept concrete, that when we can be honest but kind and use that social filter in our brain, it's gonna enhance our relationships with others and build some trust between us.
That is so good.
Okay, I am up to 5 weeks of lessons. That is great. I love that, Frank.
That's what you say to me about my hair, Kim. You must have read the book Being Frank.
I did.
And now I get it.
I did.
I'm calling my hair.
Tell you when your hair is awful.
Yeah.
I need that lesson.
So you do a lot of.
I love it.
Oh, go ahead. You do a lot of sorting and matching. So tell us some of your favorite. You've got some apps and just things you found at the Dollar Tree and stuff like that. So tell us a few of your favorites.
For sorting, I know sorting is pretty elemental, but for the little, for the younger students, it's great because it just gives them an opportunity to demonstrate, is this an example of what the concept we just learned about, or is it not? And so there's different ways to try to think in my presentation. I know one, I had to take so much out of my presentation because it was going to go too long. One I didn't share, I kind of brought right here. You could just, instead of just having cards, you could have a little spinner, kids like this, because whatever it lands on, then I have 2 little buckets here that then they can, you get one out of the blue one. Like, there doesn't have to be anything special about it, but just adding this little bit of movement and mystery to, like, am I going to get a blue or yellow is more exciting for them. You can sort into, like I had Easter eggs, that one on there, just putting your little scenarios and Easter eggs and coming up and breaking open an egg, is fun for them. I like to leave things in the classroom. I almost always try to leave some kind of a poster behind. Teachers tend to appreciate that. Sometimes I have my whole bulletin board in a classroom where they just put up all my stuff after I come in, which is great. So they can, refer to it and reinforce, which without them, what I do just wouldn't be as impactful if they didn't reinforce those things. So I'm so appreciative that they stay in the classroom. I ask them to, and they do. They, put up the resources that I leave behind that went with the lesson. So a lot of times we'll do sorting just on a piece of paper and leave that behind. Glue the different scenarios on there, the different behaviors on there, and leave that behind for them to refer to. So sorting the impact can be long lasting if it's something you can leave behind, even if it's just kind of it seems like a simple activity.
Tell us about the fish too, the fish sort.
Oh, I have that here too. I think, I probably got these from like Mailbox Magazine. Remember those? These just little cups, you can get fish anywhere. And then on the back, I have scenarios on here. And I went to the craft store like Michael's and got a roll of magnets and put those on there and just fed them all through the laminator. And so they won't come off. And then I just have this fishing pole made out of a dowel and string and a magnetics piece that's literally hot glued on. And I have several of these. I put these all on the floor, kind of like in a pond shape, and the kids can go fishing. And when they're magnet hits one of the fish, it picks it up, and then I, take it and read it, and then they sort. I have 2 buckets kind of like this. They sort, into those, whether it's expected behavior, unexpected, growth mindset, fixed mindset, big problem, small problem. Then they sort their little fish into the bucket. And it provides some movement, again, a little bit of luck, but a little bit of skill too, and just makes it more exciting than coming up and picking a card, to sort.
Yeah. So you have them come up and do that one at a time?
Well, I have about 4 poles, so that about 4 can be fishing at the same time.
Yeah, it's always more fun to go fishing with a friend, so that's good.
Yeah. I do that one in small groups too, which is nice because I usually have about 6 in a small group, so they get lots of turns.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't just have a classroom lesson. And I've done it individually too to practice the skill. So that one can be used all across the tiers.
I want you to be my counselor.
I have just retired and I told my principal that we're bringing somebody else in and see if I can get her to come. She's amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Did you really retire?
No.
Oh.
After hearing you, I'm thinking about it. You're amazing.
Just go do all the same thing. I mean, these aren't hard things, It just helps to have ideas.
Great ideas.
Then you can take them and adapt them for what works for you.
I love
about keeping score, because you've got some neat ideas for keeping score.
Yeah. I mean, you can tally on the board, but there's so many other ways to make it more exciting. I know one I shared, I went into the Target one spot and they had play felt food, and I don't know I think because I want to buy things, but I think I really shouldn't buy it unless I have a purpose for it. So I really stretched my brain to think, how could I use this? But there are these little felt tacos, and they had about 9 different ingredients. They were felt too, that went in the tacos, like beans and cheese and, rice and peppers and things like that. And it dawned on me, maybe I could use those for scoring, because they had a corn tortilla one and a flour tortilla one. And I thought, if I can just split my class into 2 teams, instead of earning points, they can earn fillings for their tacos. And that, it's more exciting to, get some beans than a little tally on the board. And so whoever had the fullest taco at the end wins. Another one I thought of was money, using money, like you could have quarter value questions or dime value. It kind of be like, I suppose, like Jeopardy, where it goes 1 to 500, but you could give money values to those. And then I was thinking about that our local bank comes in and talks to our 2nd graders about money and brings them all a little piggy bank. And I thought they'd probably give you one for free. You could get 4 of those. As kids are earning their money or their points, they can fill their piggy bank. And then at the end, have them count up, the money. One of the group members count up the money and see who got the most and basically who won. So there's lots of different creative ways to, just keep score instead of just tallies on the board. And those are 2.
That is so good.
It's really cool. I love it. And points are free. Kids love points. So be generous with that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
That show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Where they were like, we're giving 1,000 points for this. They were genius for that, because they're like, we'll give 1,000. We'll give 2,000. We don't care.
Right. But kids love that, right?
Yeah.
It's great. I love these ideas. And it really is, I love that everything that you've said so far is offline,
hands-on.
Yep.
And I think I just think that right now, that is so important for these kids to be doing some interacting with people and interacting with these things. And so I think this is just so timely.
Talk to us about prizes, because your prizes are genius, the smartest things that I never would have thought of on my own.
Well, my 2 favorite prizes, I should have brought, I have, a million in a big garbage bag downstairs. My favorite prize to give out is the pockets of air that come with your Amazon. Mostly I order from Amazon all the time, your Amazon boxes. I don't know. I just didn't want to throw them away. And so I kept keeping them. And I thought there's got to be a way I can use these. So I let my groups earn. Actually, I don't usually tell them what it is. I just say, when we're going to do a competition, it's a healthy competition. So we're going to be good sports about it. But I want to motivate you to do your best. So there will be a prize at the end. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And so when the group wins, I give them each a pocket of air. And pocket pillows from the packages that you get from Amazon, and I let them put it on the ground, and I count to 3, and everybody stomps on it, and then it's over. But it's interesting because I'll have students go, oh, whatever, I have 15 of those at home, and I'll have others go, oh, I really wanted that. That was a good prize. Like, it was free. I didn't pay anything for it. I didn't have to throw it away, right away, because I had another use for it. Then I just let them go throw it away, and it's done. It's quick. I do have to send an email to the surrounding teachers and let them know, around this time you might hear a loud pop. I'm just doing an activity. So
there's no gunfire, right? Because
let them know. Situation.
That's a really good point to make. But it's amazing what's things that if they're at their home, it wouldn't be as interesting, but you bring it into this school setting, and all of a sudden, what are these pockets of air doing at school? That's crazy. It's fun. It's exciting. It's different.
And how many times do they get to pop those with their friends? Because they're probably not going home and saying, you guys,
right.
I have 3 pockets of air. Let's pop them, Right. But in front of class, and you earned it, is a bigger deal.
Yes. You're giving them leeway to do this. I love it.
Right. Another one that I shared was, and this wasn't my idea, but I got permission to share it, was the Smelly Spots. And it's just, taking scented lip balm. And when they earn their points, everybody in the group gets to choose the scent that they want. And then you just apply it on the back of their hand, and, they get to smell it for the rest of the day. Super. You could have these probably for years. Really
I won those. I will say from your conference that I won those, and was so excited, and have already opened them up and started smelling them, because who doesn't love to smell those things? And I was thinking, that first day of school, I was thinking, and I don't know, you may have used this way, but those kindergartners who are crying for their, I wondered about I've never, when you gave me this idea, I thought I want to use this, but I thought even that first day, just putting that on there and saying, every time you miss mom, I want you to smell this and know you're going to see her in a little bit, just something instead of, we do the yarn with the kids or something, but this is just quick and easy, and I love it. So many ways to use that. Smelly Spots, I'm very excited about.
I have little, I do something similar. I got it online, but the felt stuffed hearts, they're like a little pillow, but they're in the shape of a heart. And my daughter's going to help me this year because she started sewing, but I make a bunch of those in different colors, and I keep them in a plastic, it was an old salsa jar. And then I put some tea bags in there, and they smell so good. So it's another way to bring in that, olfactory. And I just say, every time usually when mom's leaving, I'll say, oh, mom, put all your love in this heart, put it all in this heart. And then, I give it to the child and say, put it in your pocket. And we miss mom. You can feel it or smell it, and just know mom's with you. And then she's going to be back soon. But similar idea, same thing. And it has that, olfactory piece to it too, because the sense of smell is so strong with memories, especially.
I want to cry.
I want her in my pocket. Yeah. So you are getting these felt hearts. Are you buying them online?
No, I make them.
You are cutting them out, and
they don't take very long. They're just, I just get the felt in different colors, and then you get the batting and you sew them. And I wish they're at school right now, but they're super cute. I just keep them. Well, usually they're really important.
And then you put them in with the tea bag.
Yep, and the tea bags kind of infuse and get it absorbed into there. They smell delicious.
I want to come to your house because I feel like you have a school counseling factory. Like you said, you've got bags of pockets there, and like you've got your daughter stitching things. Like it's like Santa's.
It's either Martha Stewart or Hoarder House. I don't know.
My husband would say Hoarder House.
I don't know.
I do have about
7 bins
full of stuff. Yep. You have to be when you're a school. I don't know. My office is tiny. It was an old bathroom. I can't tell you how many bathrooms I've been in as a counselor. I don't know about you guys, but it's an old bathroom. Literally one office still had the tubs in it because it was an old house converted, and they just covered the tubs up. And I remember one time in the middle of a session, a teacher came in and, put the top on, got her posters out of the tub and left. I was like, I'm in a session, but whatever. So anyway, I don't have room to store things. So I have about 7 tubs at home here full of my stuff that I just take out when I need it, put it back.
I'm still reeling from the tub story. I mean, that is just.
Yeah.
True.
It could be a storm shelter. if a storm blows through, just get in the tub in your office.
Yep. Yeah. I guess I didn't think about it that way. Yeah.
That's where our brain goes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, how funny.
That is great. Well, any last that we have not covered, or anything, Laura, that sticks out to you that we were like, we've got to remember this? My favorite was the Smelly Spots. I'm going to be honest, from the whole takeaway, but we just left there going, this is ingenious. I mean, she is, they say things cycle back around. And I think a lot of the things that you're doing, it just makes me want to think about getting offline and doing some old school stuff with kids, and they are going to remember it. And, I'm just picturing you dressed up like a box. Who's not going to remember that lesson?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about it forever.
Yep.
Yeah,
so I know. So I teach Kelso's Wheel, and I did a lesson for a while where I think it's kind of scripted, where you come in carrying this box and you're having a hard time with it. It's supposed to be an analogy for a big problem that you need help with it, kind of, and you ask the teacher. So I did that, and then I'd go in a couple weeks and wear the box, and they'd say, "Oh, you're a big problem." Oh. No, it's not related. I'm not a big problem. They're always trying to make those connections, Now you are the big problem. Like, no.
Hey, that definitely means you made a memory.
That's right. That's right. Well, when I got back from the conference, I somehow stumbled upon a Neuroscience in the Classroom free conference, and one of the speakers was Liesl McConchie. I'd never heard of her, but she talked about getting kids out of the state of boredom. And she mentioned 3 ways to do that. And one was curiosity, anticipation, and relevance. And I was so pleased because, when you're doing something and you're like, I think it's the right thing. I hope it's the right thing. And then you find out it was the right thing. I was like, yay, I'm doing the right thing. So, taking in those props always builds curiosity. Why are you wearing that? Why do you have that? Why did you bring that? The anticipation, next time I come, like I'll try to say, such a pleasure to be here today. When you raised your hand, I didn't have to talk over you. It felt so good. I can't wait to come back. And next time I'm going to bring an egg and a tennis ball, and leave it with that. Leave that anticipation, because that builds that, engagement as well. And then just the relevance, which I kind of talked about too. Your activities have to be relevant to the topic that you're teaching, so that kids, again, are making that connection and able to create the memory to apply later in their life. It's just kind of a proactive approach so that they have those skills when it comes up for them. So I was so pleased when I was like, yes, I'm doing those 3 things. And it's engaging for kids. She also talked about making sure you balance novelty with predictability. It's important that everything just can't be novel, because it'll create some chaos in the brain. So being predictable too. I think having the same kind of lesson format, or always responding in a similar way. So making sure that you're predictable in those ways to give a nice balance, again, to keep those kids engaged in their learning.
They kind of know what to expect, even though it's unexpected. They know you're going to bring the expected, but you do it in that same predictable way. So they know that is really, so I just feel like we have learned a lot. Yeah. And I'm excited to see the great and wonderful things in your career. And once you've got going, what are your big plans for this next year? Anything in your mind that I know you're a creative person. So like, what right now is like on your to-do, or is making your brain just synapses fire off? What's going on?
I'm going to be ramping. I thought I was ready to ramp this year, but at the conference, I found out I'm not. I'm going to do a much better job if I take another year. And then I met someone at the conference, a ramp reviewer, said, you really should do your board certified or whatever. Okay. Along with it, because it's so similar. So I'm entertaining the thought of that. But for my school year, I'm thinking of putting together, for my 5th graders, I teach the 7 habits of happy and successful kids, and they have a booklet that we work through. We do an activity every time with those, and they learn the 7 habits. And for 4th graders, I feel like I'm doing a lot more executive functioning work with individual students. So I bounced off my advisory council, and they said, oh yeah, I think that'd be great to do with 4th graders. So that's going to be my project here in the next couple weeks in August, is maybe to make a book for them with the executive functioning skills, and developing some activities that go along with each of those to help that grade level with those things. So that's what's on my plate next.
Well, on my plate next is tickets to Montana.
Yeah.
Yay. Have you guys been here before? Did I read your screen right that you were here?
Virtually. We did it virtually.
Oh,
We
okay.
had to do it virtually this year because of the
Okay.
restrictions on travel at the time.
Oh,
But
okay.
when we are in Montana, we will have to go eat or meet up or do something.
Absolutely.
If you're ever in Alabama or close by, Tennessee, we'll meet you.
We'll be there.
We'll be there. We love an excuse. Thank you so much for taking time to do this with us.
I think you are the smartest person I know. And I have just,
Oh, well, thanks a lot.
I mean, really, the smartest person in this Zoom room right now.
Hear my heart.
There is no one else here that is even equal to you. But these have just been so wonderful. And you did a whole presentation and I couldn't write fast enough. We were just in awe the whole time. And so we just appreciate you taking some time and sharing your ideas with us and our listeners. And this has just been fantastic. And we want to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. I thank you that you attended. I mean, it's amazing you were in the crowd, especially when I was asking, people to share a podcast that you listen to. And they said counselor accents right away, and you were there. But just that it was a value to. I'm glad it was a value to you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on and get to see you. And it was so funny sitting there looking at your faces talking when I've heard you on my podcast and not seeing your faces. So it's just such an honor to be here and be in your presence. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We love to make new friends, and we feel like you're a kindred spirit. So we're excited to develop this relationship, I hope, and follow with bated breath all the great things that you're going to do. So stay in touch with us. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.